Next live in Ottawa is Stephen Taylor, director at the National Citizens Coalition, and your group has been pretty vocal about reform, if not outright abolition of the Senate. Do scandals like these push you closer to that latter option?
Well, I think the timeline on this and the timeline for the Prime Minister is becoming shorter and shorter. I think Canadians are becoming fed up with the Senate status quo. A lot of people calling for reform. In fact, the Prime Minister calling for reform since, well, at least 2006. And now a lot of Conservatives are actually calling for abolition. So as we get closer and closer to the next election, I think we'll be pushing the Prime Minister. If he does not have serious Senate reform milestones accomplished by the next election, I think we'll be pushing him to run on abolition.
Okay, we'll have you on the show then so that we can update the conversation then. I want to ask you about Wallen, what we've learned today, and the fact that she's been ordered to repay all these expenses. She's offered to pay back plus interest. The matter now turned over to the RCMP. Are you at least satisfied with all of this?
Well, look, if I racked up $120,000 worth of expenses, I think I'd be fired by the time I got to, like, you know, $120.
Fair enough.
Look, I think all Canadians out there, like, who work, understand that, look, if they abuse their employer's trust, they're out the door. But really, the employer here is the taxpayer and the people of Canada. When there's no mechanism to throw out people that abuse the taxpayer when they're in Parliament. There's no electoral mechanism for tossing the bums out, so to say. The mechanism is actually calling in the cops, and I think that's a sad state of affairs in our democracy when we have a whole House of Parliament in 2013 that is unelected and unaccountable.
Sadly, that is, I guess, the reality. You just summed it up right now. But beyond throwing the bums out, as you said, what else can we do at this point?
Well, look, we're pushing for reform. We're making sure that we're on the horn with elected officials, you know, those that we actually cast a ballot for every day, every week, to push the Prime Minister's office to actually make those milestones. Look, we want term limits for senators. You know, if we can't throw them out, we can certainly at least wait for a few years to toss them out. But as it stands now, they're until they're 75. And ultimately, we want election and accountability at every step of the way. Look, I'm sure a lot of this has to do with arrogance, racking up $120,000 worth of expenses as if you're entitled to them. But there's got to be a layer of incompetence here, too. Who approved these expenses? What sort of mechanism allows $120,000 worth of expenses to rack up without anyone batting an eye until all of a sudden, whether it be infighting in the Senate between senators, leaks from the Senate internal economy? Why is all of this secret? All of this information should be out. All of this information should be disclosed, line item on parliamentary websites so that the public can actually go through. Look, if they can't elect them and they can't get accountability that way, they should be able to at least see how much they're spending on the parliamentary website.
Stephen, on the horn, pushing for reform. You said
That's
it. That
right.
could be your motto. Okay, Stephen Taylor, director of the National Citizens Coalition. Thank you.
Thanks, Caryn.